my name is Palma Accardi, and you are watching Tidal Flooding Talk. We're here live at the Irish Pub in Atlantic City, and you could join us here every Tuesday to catch our show. Now, tonight's guest is Bill Handley. He has been the lifeguard in Upper Township for the last 35 years, and now the captain for the last 28.
Captain, nice to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm meteorologist Dan Skeldon, and you're watching Tidal Flooding Talk, brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. Why we are here every week, different guest every week from a different line of work. Kind of spanning the realm of coastal occupations. Great to have a very timely visit from you, Bill, with Memorial Day weekend coming up and the big, everyone says, the unofficial start to the summer season. So thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit about your background, I guess. I think we talk tidal flooding here each and every week, and adapting to the changing times along the shore. And perhaps no one better to have on than someone who has watched the ocean and to some degree the bays for the last 30-something years.
Well,
so tell us a little bit about your background.
It's funny you should mention that, actually, because I grew up and still live on the Tuckahoe River.
You do? Okay.
So I'm a lifelong resident of Upper Township. I lived on the Tuckahoe River. The river actually gave me a background with being in and on the water. So I was brought up swimming, boating, water skiing, fishing. And my parents eventually, started taking me to the beach. And we actually went to Sea Isle, that's my neighbor. But when I became 16, the occupation of being a lifeguard was really appealing to me. So I took that occupation, and I haven't turned back since.
And you've been doing what you love for 35 years now.
Long time, yes.
That's
great.
And I guess let me just ask this too. Tuckahoe River, is that subject to tidal flooding? Do you guys ever see that from time to time? I know it's farther up, inland and upstream, but is that something of a concern even that far inland?
It's a concern for me, my neighbors. As a matter of fact, not only am I on the Beach Patrol, but I'm on the Great Egg Harbor River Council, so it's something that we talk about, and it's a major concern for our area of Upper Township, but also the whole Great Egg Harbor River system.
Okay.
So.
Now, we do have Memorial Day weekend approaching. Is there any message you'd like to get to your beachgoers for the weekend?
Well, this is a tough time for beach patrols because, as you might have mentioned, I'm not sure, but I'm also a school teacher. I teach at Middle Township Middle School. So a lot of lifeguards right now, whether they're captains and lieutenants like myself or younger lifeguards, are still in school. So every municipality has difficulty finding guards that can sit the beaches, even though it's Memorial Day weekend, and then the weekends are a little bit easier, but during the week after Memorial Day weekend, there's limited beach coverage. So one of the big messages that I would want to get out to people is that they need to look at the websites of the various beach patrols. We have our own website in Upper Township. They usually post the beaches that'll be open, and if they're not posted, they can simply call those beach patrols and find out what stands are open because they want to swim in front of lifeguards.
Have you been out on the Upper Township beaches yet as you guys prepare the season? And it was kind of a rough winter. We had a blizzard in January. We had all those nor'easters in March. What's the shape of the beaches as we approach the big summer season?
We did fairly well. Our north end got hit with some erosion, and we did have a certain level of erosion. Luckily, we had recently had a beach fill, so we had some beach to spare, but so we did fairly well, but you can see the impacts of the winter storms. You can also see, and it might be a good thing, that there's a lot of salt marsh piling up, and in Strathmere we're having the sand cover that up, so it's actually building some beach at that, in the upper beach levels.
You can never have enough beach, right?
Yes, yeah.
Now, what do you do to prepare your beaches for coastal events?
Well, if it's happening during the summer, first of all and foremost, we're going to be looking out for the safety of the bathers and the swimmers in the ocean. So we may have to take precautions to prevent bathers from going in the water. We can't really do much about surfers or kite surfers or PWCers, so we'll prepare for that level. But we also work with our public works to get various equipment and anything that we can out of harm's way, whether it be our equipment or also just signs and things like that could become a hazard during a storm situation. So, and because we're on the island, it sometimes is in public works' interest to have us be part of that.
Now, one of our challenges, we've had some emergency managers on before and meteorologists, is getting people to listen to us. And when we say evacuate ahead of a storm or whatnot, it's tough to get people to evacuate. In your line of work, how tough is it to get people to listen? All right, when we're not there, you shouldn't be in the water, because I mean it seems like every summer, and unfortunately as a meteorologist, you can almost predict when this is going to happen. Big storm off the coast, big swells, there's rip currents, the ocean's inviting. You guys leave for the day, someone goes in after hours and gets loses their life, where there's water rescues due to rip currents. I mean, what's the message? How do we get preach the safety of that to people along the shore? Because that's a problem each and every summer, and it's a very preventable death. I remember one year we had like hardly any hurricanes, any tornadoes. Rip currents was the number one killer as far as types of weather in the entire country. I think it was back in like 2005. So perhaps it's an issue you deal with every year.
Obviously, and just last year around this time, we tragically lost 2 teens here in Atlantic City, and it was at a time where it was a half an hour after the lifeguards went off duty. So the message has to be we have to keep saying the message, and hopefully people here at venues like this can get that message out. I was telling Palma before we were on air that I spent the last day with my middle school students, taking them to the Cape May Beach Patrol to educate them on the dangers of going swimming without protection. So at the school setting, we can get that information out. And one of the things I found is that when you ask people, what is a rip current, they might say they've known what a rip current is, but when you really ask about, what do they look like and what causes them, they don't really know. And so if you don't know the answers to those questions, you really have no business swimming without the protection of a lifeguard close by.
Good point.
Now, do you think that age group, middle school, you're a middle school teacher, do you think that age group is aware of the dangers of flooding and coastal storms as much as they should be or could be?
As a middle school teacher, I would say they're probably not. But I think that there is a lot of unique opportunities for hands-on, on-site learning through field trips that I think that as a community we should probably do a better job to let our youth know what the dangers of coastal flooding and storms are. So I think that, and I think that teachers may, encourage that once they see the opportunities what is available.
And it's a good point, like that you have spent the better part of your life on the beach, front row seat to either the beauty of the ocean, if the weather's cooperating,
and it is
or the power of the ocean too.
Yes.
The deceptive power like rip currents, the destructive power like nor'easters and hurricanes. So I mean, you kind of have the unique, perspective to kind of understand the dangers it presents, from rip currents to tidal flooding. And I think to follow up on your question, how do we impart that on the younger generation? All right, I mean, if they're going to live along the shore, how do we kind of increase awareness? All right, the ocean's beautiful. This is one of the best places to live in the country, but it can turn deadly at times.
Well, I think that our beach patrols have made efforts. We're making strides right now as the South Jersey Chiefs Association to get that information out to the community. I think NOAA does a nice job. They have a lot of websites with videos that are geared towards the younger audience. And the media, I think, has been very helpful. Whether it be local news reports or local newspapers, they put out a lot of articles that really, in a sense, are a public safety announcement. So, I mean, these are the means in which we have to get that information out, and we just got to keep trying.
It's just increasing awareness, and that's something we try to do with the New Jersey Coastal Coalition as well. Increase awareness. That's why we bring you Tidal Flooding Talk every Tuesday, 7 p.m. And a lot of the other projects we have, it's meant to educate, to increase awareness, because life along the shore is great, but it's changing. And every once in a while, hopefully a long while, it can prove dangerous. So that's why we're here. And of course, you guys can come on down and join us every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Irish Pub, or right here on Facebook.
And speaking of media, if you are streaming live on Facebook, we do encourage you to ask any questions for our guests or comments, because we will try to answer them, and it is interactive. I do have another question
Sure.
for you, Bill. So you've been on that beach now for the last 35 years. Have you seen changes in wave action or, beach erosion?
Well, there's been dramatic changes. I mean, there were times in my career where we actually had the lifeguard on top of the bulkhead. Where at high tide there was no beach, and the waves were crashing right into the bulkhead. And then at low tide, of course, we had to bring the stands down off the bulkhead to get foul. So at this point, that's not the case in Strathmere, and I think that's a case of really a tremendous program from the Army Corps of Engineers. When they do the beach pumping, it does create differences in the wave action. We have, sometimes what happens is that you have this like artificially built up beach that causes some shore break where the waves, the steep grade of the beach is causing the waves to break, on the shore, which becomes a hazardous situation. We're aware of it, but the average beachgoer might not be. And then what else happens in those situations is you have what's called scarping, where basically a cliff will form where there's a slight erosion, where that cliff could be 2 feet. At times it's been like 3 to 4 feet, where you have to step up a 3-4 foot drop to get down to the beach, and that's a very hazardous situation. So there's a lot of different changes that through the years that have happened that we've observed.
Now, we had Commissioner John Amadeo on from Margate, and I asked him the dune question. I'd like to ask you that too. I mean, how is the dune system in Strathmere? And is it expansive? Could it be better? And is that a benefit to people along the beach as well? In terms of protection, in terms of what you do every day.
Well, I know that during Sandy that the report was that much of the flooding came from the bayside,
right, and
so that the dunes did its job. So clearly, and the dunes are healthy in Strathmere right now, so we're blessed with that. So I believe that the dunes are healthy and strong and absolutely are doing their job to protect the residents of Strathmere.
Okay.
Now, you're the president of the South Jersey Lifeguard Association, the Chiefs
Association, yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that group?
Yes, we are a group of beach patrols that formed actually in 1928.
Wow.
They started doing a race, which you may have heard of, the South Jersey Lifeguard Championship. For us, it's the Super Bowl of lifeguarding.
And that varies location, right?
Correct. Whoever wins, yes.
Okay.
So Longport's hosting this year.
When was the last time you guys won?
Well, that's a funny story. We tied in 2013. And by virtue of a tiebreaker, Ocean City beat us. So we were technically second place. So we didn't get to host it.
Okay. Maybe next year. Right?
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. But so it started with the lifeguard race, but it's become much bigger than that. The beach patrols consisted from Brigantine to Cape May Point. In the 1950s or 60s, we formed a constitution, and in around the 1980s, we began certifying our lifeguards. So we became an organization where we, promote better lifeguarding standards. We try to help each other with how we deal with various issues. Every year we have a training program where we get together and train together, which is another opportunity for us to bring the media in, to have them film it and get our public safety information out. So, it's an organization, and the presidency rotates. So I'm not going to be president forever, but I've enjoyed my 4 years as being president right now.
Now, do you think, follow-up, have in the association, do most of you deal with the same issues, or do you notice that there's a big difference?
Well, here we are in Atlantic City. So Atlantic City has a whole different set of issues that Strathmere would have, Upper Township. So we have some very different aspects to how we lifeguard, but it is the same ocean wherever you go. So the ocean presents similar problems, but we all have our little variances based on the geography of where we're guarding.
And what do you think your biggest challenge is in Strathmere for lifeguards? What's the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge. I don't know if there is one really. The biggest challenge is the ocean. I would say, I guess the largest challenge that we have is that we do have 2 areas of unprotected beach on either side of us, and one is Corson's Inlet, it's a state park. And then on the other side, in Whale Beach, there's some unprotected areas. And so we find that there's people that go there's no lifeguards, and they get themselves in trouble. And one of the things that I would really say is very important is that sometimes those people get in trouble and they don't know where they're at. So we'll have a situation where we'll hear a distressed swimmer in Whale Beach, and we ask, what block are you on? And they don't know. And that makes our response time, very much delayed. So it's very important that people know where they're at. But I'd say in Strathmere, that's probably our hugest challenge.
Okay. And I guess, just to follow up to an earlier question, what's the scariest, weather phenomena you have seen on the beach, like in your 30-something years? You've had the front seats, ideally sunny weather whenever you're out there, but weather doesn't always cooperate like that.
More than one occasion I've seen a water spout.
Okay.
But I think that, we were on duty during Irene, and we had a skeleton crew, and of course the ocean was closed, but we weren't really sure how bad that storm was going to be, and so we were there, we were prepared for the worst, we were prepared for the possibly helping out with the flooding issues as well as any potential rescues. So in that particular sense, I think Irene was one of the more scary moments for me.
And we lucked out in Irene. It wasn't as bad as and then when Sandy came, of course, in October, October 29th, no one's on the beach.
We weren't on the beach then. We were concerned, and we, I as captain did get involved a little bit, but most part of the lifeguards weren't involved in that.
Okay.
And when it comes to coastal storms, when do you make the decision, okay, we need to close the beach, get people off the beach?
First of all, it's a lifeguard's eye. We can pretty much tell when it's become, too dangerous. So, and in Upper Township, we're not really scrutinized. If we feel it's unsafe for a bather to go in the water, we're given the authority to put the red flag up, which, a lot of us use flags. The red flag with a no swim sign would mean that there's no swimming. I will say, like I said earlier, that we can't necessarily control whether a kite surfer's out there or somebody on a PWC, so we still have to be ready to respond. But it's more than likely a visual thing. I think when the governor declares a state of emergency, that makes the guesswork go away. So, at that point, we don't have to guess anymore.
Yeah.
But there are times where it's not a state of emergency, but we can just tell that, it's just not safe for people to be out in the water right now.
Yeah, we have a new governor now. So our old governor had a very blunt way of telling people to get off the beach. We'll have to see how Governor Murphy.
I think that was during Irene, wasn't it?
I think it was during Irene.
I remember that. Yeah, and there were some people that needed to get off the beach at that point.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess it worked, but I'm guessing Governor Murphy's going to have probably something a little different than Governor Christie did. But hopefully we're not going to have any storms. Now, hurricane season does begin June 1st. Memorial Day weekend, the kickoff to summer. What's the perfect weather you would like to see? As a lifeguard, as a resident, what's a good Memorial Day weekend for you? Now, water temperature right now, last I checked was 60.
It's 60 if we're lucky.
60.
And I actually had a field trip at the beach today. I would say it was definitely in the 60s, so very low 60s. I'd like to see a little warmer, but it's a tricky question because, of course, as lifeguards, we want to see a calm, peaceful ocean. But as a beachgoer and a wave lover, we like a little waves too. So I'd say let's keep it within the 3 to 4 foot range, and we'll be happy.
Okay. We'll see what we can do. And for those of you wondering, big holiday weekend plans, I can tell you Saturday is going to be the best day. If you want to go to the beach, Saturday is probably the best day. Upper 70s at the beach, mostly sunny skies. Sunday, Monday, there is a chance of some scattered showers and storms. You're having your cookout, Saturday's the best day for that as well.
Now, Dan, when is it going to stop raining?
Well, we have showers tonight, but then the rest of the week is dry.
Okay.
We haven't had 3 or 4 dry days in a row. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we actually have dry weather. It's been kind of a miserable spring. We've had little nice stuff here and there, but while South Jersey has great falls, our springs can lack something sometimes. We thankfully haven't had a lot of tidal flooding this spring, so we've been good with that, but we haven't had a lot of warmth and sunshine either. So we are going to work on trying to get that up as well.
Well, I haven't had to wash my car lately, so I'm happy about that.
And allergy sufferers, there's been so much rain around that they've been sniffling and sneezing a little bit less as well. Again, this is a live interactive Facebook show, and I've been neglecting some of you who've been saying hi to us, but I try not to do that. But great conversation so far. Kristen Kaiser, Gnarly Nar, nice to have you guys on. Justin Thomas, Lori Cedeno, Tanya Maria, nice to have you. Joe asked a question, Bill.
Okay.
What kind of tidal change do rivers have compared to back bays? You live along the river. I know you cross the bay to get to work. They're a little less prominent on the rivers, right? The bays you can see they're really, really high, but the more upstream you go, is it less dramatic, or is that dramatic change?
Well, I haven't grown up in the river. I would say that there are times where it's somewhat dramatic. And I have a property that's right there in the river. I have things that could get damaged. I don't know if it's any more or less dramatic than the bay.
Now, we always talk the bays, so you do Tuckahoe River, Great Egg Harbor River, Bass River, Mullica River. These are all tidal rivers where technically residents, there aren't as many residents along the river as there are along the whole stretches of the Back Bay. But river flooding is absolutely something that we're concerned with. Well, it's something that river residents do have to deal with.
And you have the water table issue where the river's getting flooding, and you also have the water table high. So. Us river residents, we worry about flooding too. So.
I do love. I had a friend once who lived in the Tuckahoe River on the I think the Corbin City side of things, and it's a beautiful, kind of off the beaten path area. The Tuckahoe River,
like I said,
Corbin City and Upper Township.
Born and raised and love the river. So I love the ocean, I love the bay, and I love the river. I love it all.
Have you ever just went from the Tuckahoe River all the way out to the ocean?
Sure, yeah. So I've taken my boat.
How long of a ride is that out?
It's about 30-minute ride.
Okay.
30-minute ride.
Now, we did talk about how you prepare for coastal events, but what about afterwards? How long does it take to restore your beach after a major event like Superstorm Sandy?
Well, with Sandy, and again, we mentioned that we were not actually on duty, but I know that in Upper Township, our public works was working, around the clock to do what they could to get Strathmere up and running. And we did get involved in some of the cleanup in Irene, but basically our job is to pick up our own equipment and maybe help out with the debris on the beach. But our public works department does a tremendous job in that situation. And then, ultimately, like the actual restoration was really helped along by the Army Corps of Engineer project. But it can take weeks, to get back up and running.
I think Strathmere too. I think is probably it's one of the few towns along the shore where there's no bridge in and out to the mainland.
Yeah.
I mean, you are at the mercy of Sea Isle
Yes.
and Ocean City. So you're evacuating Strathmere. You can't say, all right, Strathmere's flooding, I'm just going to take the bridge to the mainland. You got to go north or south for miles to get off of, that little nook along the shore. So, I mean, I think evacuation there is even more important. I remember I was storm chasing in a nor'easter one time, and I had my video camera when I was working for NBC 40, and I ended up in Strathmere, and eventually I tried to go to South Sea Isle, and I couldn't. The road was flooded, and I said, I better get off this island. So I turned around, floodwaters were coming up. I mean, I was almost stuck there in Strathmere for the duration of the storm. So I think, Strathmere, maybe more than any other town, teaches you the importance of, evacuating when they tell you to evacuate, because you can be very easily cut off.
Yes, it does. And I actually have lived in Strathmere at different times in my life, and so I have been stuck in a town when I couldn't get out. Of course, they're doing work on the Sea Isle Boulevard now.
Yes.
They're raising it, but so the Sea Isle Boulevard was not always reliable in getting out. So, and then there have been issues on the Ocean City Causeway as well too. So Strathmere is definitely susceptible to flooding and has some rightful concerns.
As one follow-up question, have you ever, as a resident, not heeded an evacuation order?
Ooh.
I'll put you on the spot right there. And it's okay if you say yes, because
Maybe
while
he's
I
happy to
want,
say.
I would like 100% evacuation, you don't get that. And,
I hate to answer this because I will tell you that as a lifeguard, sometimes I'm more confident than I should be in situations because I feel like I can handle whatever the weather throws at me. So
Well, you have 35 years of experience,
the answer to the question
so-
is yes, I have.
Okay.
But don't do that.
Now, the Irish Pub and the New Jersey Coalition would like to thank you for joining us this evening. We do have a gift of course, the Irish Pub t-shirt.
Oh, nice.
So thank you very much.
All right, appreciate it.
Anything else you want to add, Captain?
Just be safe when you go to the beaches. Always swim in front of a lifeguard, and enjoy your time at the beach because it is beautiful. It just has a little bit of danger involved in it. So
It does, and that's life along the Jersey Shore. Beautiful, but from rip currents to nor'easters to tidal flooding, we always just got to stay on top of it. Most of the stuff we can forecast, but if we don't do it, hopefully you're aware. Next week's guest.
Joe McDevitt, so stay tuned or join us live at the Irish Pub. Joe McDevitt was a former freeholder, and he was in office during Superstorm Sandy. He has since raised his home, so he knows all about that process. So we'll see him next week.
All right, that'll be Tuesday, 7 p.m. You can join the conversation online. Come on down to the Irish Pub. Again, proud sponsor, along with the New Jersey Coastal Coalition of Tidal Flooding Talk. Bill, Palma, another great show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, guys. We'll see you back here next week. Have a great and a safe Memorial Day weekend.